as a travel advisor, but I started working for an airline called Olympic Airways, which is the Greek airline. And yeah, so I was there for a few years in sales, and then I got into travel, selling tour packages, cruises, all kinds of things. I had to get all my paperwork sorted in order to work. So I took up the travel advisor gig again, and here I am. I've been on lots and lots of cruises, as you can see, at least 15. And I worked out the other day that literally within, I think, 18 months, I'm going to have been on 10 cruises alone. I mean, I'm a travel agent. I do sell everything, but I've somehow always circled back to cruises. And the cruise lines are very generous. They want you to sample their products. So they always say, hey, here's a cabin. Come on our ship. So who am I to argue? So yeah, and this is my lovely family. My supportive husband is sitting there with the camera videoing me. I have 3 kids, 2 college age and a high schooler. He's a sophomore. And it's our dog Rugby. So I used to actually work on the Achille Lauro, which is an old Italian cruise ship that back in the late 80s when I was working on it, in my hometown of Sydney, so literally it did a season out of Sydney for 6 months. And that was the only time it was in port, and that's when I was working on it. And at the time, we thought it was such a, wow, whiz-bang, huge, massive cruise ship, and it was the best thing since sliced bread. And as you can see, it's small and dinky. Like, we thought we were the ants' pants working on this cruise ship. And it only has 9 decks, which were only 6 were accessible for passengers, the rest were for crew. The tonnage is 21,119, 900 passengers, which at the time we didn't question. We just thought we were on the biggest cruise ship in the, which it was at the time. Sadly, it has a bit of a story. It was taken hostage by the PLO a long time ago, and some pretty horrible things happened. They made a movie about it. And whilst we were on the ship, we actually saw, they had Israeli security guards on board, and they found bullets from the actual hostage situation. So, yeah, it has a bit of a sordid history. And then it sadly caught fire off the coast of Africa and sunk, with all my lost and found on it, by the way, that I never got to pick up. So, as I said, back in the day, we thought this was the biggest thing since, sliced bread. And then along comes the Icon of the Seas in 2024, 7,600 passengers, 248,000 tonnage and 20 decks. I was fortunate enough last year to be invited on its inaugural travel agent and media cruise, which was a lot of fun, and it is huge. This thing it's gigantic. Like, that is literally to scale. We were on it for 3 nights and we didn't get to see most of it. It's massive. Probably a little too big, if you ask me, because, yeah, it is. It's got something for everybody, but it's just big. And so embarkation day is just chaos. Disembarkation day is chaos. No matter which way you cut it, you've got a big ship in a port with thousands and thousands of people. But it's an experience. It's a great ship. It's just a lot of ship. A lot of steps, getting lots of steps in. So here's a little, that's myself and my colleague. We went on to you'll notice my husband isn't in any of these. He kind of stands me up when it comes to cruising because I invite him and then a work trip comes up and he can't make it. So I've given up. He might get to come on something later in the year, but my colleague and I went on this one together. And ironically, that guy there's the kids on the Icon of the Seas. He's a kids captain, and he's from Australia. So we heard each other's accents, and we were like, oh. So he was literally flown out the week before the cruise to start being the kids' cruise conductor. And then that was just a cute photo of the ice cream place on board. So cruising is perfect for everybody. I just got off an adults only cruise, which was Virgin Voyages, and it's for 18s and over. Whole different experience. Like you've come off a mega ship to something like just adults only, and it's a medium-sized ship. So you've got your small expedition style ships that do the Arctic, Antarctica, and all the nooks and crannies where other ships can't get in. Then you've got your mid-sized ships, which was the Virgin Voyages adults only cruise I was just on, and then you've got your mega ships, which are the new icons, Royal Caribbean icon class of ship. So and there's all standards like. I'm not a huge fan of Carnival. I mean, some people love Carnival, but we joke and we call it Walmart at sea because it's a little Walmart-ish. But the prices are reflected in, the cabin prices. Whereas these mega ships, and every time they replace, like every year now they're releasing a new, I wouldn't say bigger, they're not as big as the Icon, but Royal Caribbean are releasing new ships. And people just want to outdo their last cruise. So people are paying a lot of money to go on these mega ships, and it is, I mean, as I said, you don't want for anything when you're on the ship. There's something for everybody. The entertainment on Royal Caribbean is Broadway-esque, second to none. The things they have managed to do, even if they did it on land, would be mind-blowing. The fact that they've got people diving into water, 10 decks up high. It's just incredible. And the floor moves. So there's a lot of trust there. One minute there's people dancing in water up to their ankles. Next minute there's someone diving into that same body of water. So there's a lot of trust with the crew to make sure that they're making the floor go up and down. But anyway, Broadway shows on Royal Caribbean. But then your more intimate, smaller cruise ships for the more mature crowd are going to be focusing on the food and the dining experience, not so much the entertainment. You might have someone sitting playing a guitar, playing a piano, but you're not going to have these Broadway-esque style things to see. So this is the back of the Icon that I just put up there. The good thing about cruising is that it's all inclusive, and that also varies from cruise line to cruise line. Royal Caribbean, for example, you pay your fare and then you got to pay, they nickel and dime you. You got to buy your drinks, buy your Wi-Fi. I mean, again, a great experience, but it's an expensive experience. Then you've got other cruise lines like Norwegian who will package it all together to make it more affordable. Virgin Voyages, again, they package it all together. A lot of the cruise lines, the 5-star luxury expedition cruises, you'll get everything included. Shore excursions, your transfers, your pre-night hotel accommodation. 2 of the polar expedition cruise lines I work a lot with, they give you big parkas when you get on board for the cold weather. Like, they think of everything. And you're not being nickel and dimed. Your Wi-Fi, your gratuities, everything's included. So don't be... When you're looking at prices, lots of times you've got to add another few $100s a day to the price of the cruise. And exceptional service, it kind of, again, cruise line to cruise line, ship to ship. It's not very consistent across the board. But yeah, and sorry, again, unpack your suitcase once and that's it. That's the one thing a lot of people aren't cruisers, and that's fine, but I love the fact that you can pack one suitcase and then you just unpack it once and you get to visit a lot of countries and destinations in one cruise. Okay, so this is an example of the types of cruises. So as I mentioned before, ocean cruises. So obviously ocean, you're out in the open water going from point A to point B. A lot of times you can even be just cruising down the coast. It's still considered an ocean voyage. I did one recently, last year on Norwegian. We were up out of Quebec City and came down to New York City. So it literally was just down the coast. When you go to Alaska, you're pretty much going up the coast through the Inside Passage, but they're still classified as an ocean cruise. Then you've got your river cruises, which are literally what they are. They're rivers very popular through Europe. There's one, it's funny, I've been offered a cruise through the Great Lakes from Chicago to Toronto. So I'm like, oh, that looks really interesting. But yeah, they have cruises through the waterways? That's a very good question. I didn't look that far, but you literally get on the ship and I don't know if it has many stops. I think it's just here. It's more of a scenic cruise. You just get on and look at everything as you go by. I need to have a closer look at that itinerary, but I thought that was something I hadn't even thought of, is get on in Chicago and get off in Toronto when you're just cruising. Especially if you're prone to seasickness, that's a great way to have a cruise experience. Same with the European river cruises. You're just on, flat water. Yeah, more to see. Yeah, more to see. And then, of course, your family cruises and your adults only. The expedition cruises I touched on. This is an example. That's the Swan Helenics Vega. She goes to both polar caps, Antarctica and the Arctic. And they do a lot of the what we call the nooks and crannies. So, you can go to a country and you can see all the big cities, but these smaller ships get into all the smaller little ports and towns that not everybody gets to see. And again, they're all inclusive. They're not going to nickel and dime you for things. So this is me on my deck, on my balcony on the way to Alaska last year. And that's actually people on our ship deck as we were cruising through the glacier up in Alaska. If you haven't done an Alaskan cruise, it's definitely a bucket list item. It's just, I got to go for a work conference. And it was one of those things I thought, oh yeah, I'll do it one day. Because quite honestly, selling cruises from Australia, all the old people wanted to go on the Princess Cruise up to Alaska. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an old person. I've got to go to Alaska on a Princess Cruise, oh my gosh. But, oh my gosh, I don't know whether I'm old and I've just embraced it, but it was amazing. And we had the last cruise of the season, so the weather was crap, but it was still amazing. We got great day, we got great weather to cruise the glacier, so... and you can pretty much find a cruise to anywhere. If you want to see it, there'll be a cruise ship that'll take you there. Like now through the Panama Canal. Again, as I said, all these little nooks and crannies. You want to see somewhere, there's a cruise line and a cruise ship that'll get you there. What's next? Okay. This is just an example. So, Virgin Voyages, I'll use as an example. So, they were the 18 plus. This is me on my balcony. So Richard Branson owns Virgin. So you can imagine this was like Richard Branson at sea. We had drag queens doing bingo. We had, everyone gets a hammock on their deck, on their balcony, sorry. The food was amazing. Some of the best food I've ever eaten on land or sea. That's where he has Michelin star chefs that have curated his menus. Personally, I thought the entertainment lacked, but then they had... he includes a lot of fitness classes. So, those bungee classes that are popular. Bungee was all free. He has a lot of free things included in his price. But the food was just amazing. Like, I've never had such great food on a cruise ship ever. But again, if you're going for food and fitness, great. If you're going for entertainment. And also going to not have any kids was good. I love my children. But then again, I thought maybe the kids kind of tame the adults a little bit. Having kids on a boat, no. You're right, no. Anyway. They just shuttle them off. Yeah, right, to Kids Club. To Kids Club, right? Yeah. It was funny, we were in port, I was sitting on the beach in Bimini, and I look over and this older guy, and he had what looked to be a sunscreen bottle, but it was one of those fake bottles. It was empty, and he was drinking his liquor out of it. So he smuggled liquor onto the ship in a sunscreen bottle. And I've got one at home for Amerisbank, and I was like, oh, I left my fake sunscreen at home. I should have thought of that. Then I look over here, and there's another guy swigging out of his sunscreen bottle. So, travel tip, get your liquor on board in your empty sunscreen bottle. Fake sunscreen bottles available on Amazon. You can also get fake umbrellas. Okay, so moving along. I think I just carried a bottle. Yeah, you could try that. You're allowed to take, so all cruise lines will allow you to take one bottle of wine, but no beer or hard liquor. So that's why they all snuck on their little sunscreen bottles. Yeah. Back in the good old days. And this was this is just an example of the tropical destinations that you come across on your cruises. Cruises are kind of, ocean cruises in particular are kind of classified into your warm and your cold weather cruising. Cold weather's obviously your Alaskas and your northern Canada or Canada, and your warm weather are your tropics, so your Bahamas, your Caribbean, Costa Rica and all that fun stuff. Best time to book is there's something called wave season, which is the beginning of the year. All the cruise lines have their big sales, and you get lots of benefits and bonuses for your booking. Now we're just onto some photos. This is the Virgin. It's my friend and I, because again my husband was meant to come but had to go somewhere and couldn't come. So I took a friend, and the great thing I loved about this was because Virgin are mid-sized ships, probably borderline smaller, so their capacity is 2,800. Embarkation and disembarkation was the smoothest I have ever encountered. And that can make a big difference to you having a great experience on a cruise and a really crappy one. It was just so smooth. We got in, we got off. Like, we literally lined up to get off the ship at like 7:20, and we were at Miami airport by 7:45. Like, that never happens. Never. When I got off the Icon, it was like every single 7,000 people were trying to get off and get into Miami airport, which was a bit of a nightmare. So, and as you can see, the decor and the colour schemes of all the ships are very different, and it's a really huge reflection on the ship. So that just speaks to like over 18, Richard Branson, fine lines, stainless steel and red. Whereas the Icon of the Seas and the bigger cruise ships have got all the water slides and all the bells and the whistles. And that's my mum and I took my mum on my last work cruise, and we did that was Quebec City to New York City, and that's in my home country's sister city of Sydney in Canada, and that was me back up in Alaska. That was just cruising down the Sound to the glacier. And a lot of the cruise lines have private islands. So they're all in the Bahamas, and that's Royal Caribbean's private island. It's called Perfect Day at Coco Cay. And it's just a whole, as you can see, it's got a hot air balloon ride, it's got water slides, it's got a party pool, it's got a beach, it's got private cabanas. It's a whole experience in itself. It's a great experience, but it's huge. It's huge. And the ones that do the warm weather to the Caribbean, all of them now have private islands. Varying degrees of entertainment, like they've set the bar, Royal Caribbean. MSC and Carnival and Norwegian all have private islands. Not all of them are accessible via a dock. A lot of tenders, so they dock the ship out and you've got to get on a tender onto the private island. When I was there that day, we were sitting there and it was quite choppy, and we saw the Norwegian ship pull in, and they were tendering, and it was really choppy. And we were grateful for the fact we just got off the ship and walked on. They were going to have to wait for the swell to drop so they could get their passengers onto the island. So, and that's just me again with my mum. That time, same cruise in Port Charlottetown, which is where Anne of Green Gables was based. And that was me in Ketchikan in Alaska in the rain. And that's myself and my friend on the Icon with all the flowers, and yeah, in their Pearl they've got a big dome in there. Some of these ships are just amazing. They've got, big atriums and things like that. So,
what's your favorite itinerary?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite itinerary
Or location?
Well, okay, so I love the warm weather cruises through the Caribbean. Quite frankly, they all start to look the same after a while. I do love Grand Turk. That was beautiful. Grand Turk was beautiful. But I did love Alaska. I really loved. The ports were all kind of like, 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. But we were in Skagway, and we walked downtown, and like the harbour seals, there was like the creek that ran, bigger than a creek, a body of water that ran through downtown. And the harbour seals were like just swimming, and we could have touched them if we wanted.
Did you go up like Nova Scotia or?
Yeah, so
East Coast?
I wasn't. That was my work cruise last year, and if work had have asked us to give us the last cruise in the world we'd want to do for our thing, that would have been it. And I was like, really? I don't like the cruise line, and I don't like the itinerary. I was Quebec City, amazing. Sailing past the Statue of Liberty coming into New York City, amazing. I I didn't love it. I was a little bit disappointed. But when I say disappointed, I knew going into it. I didn't think maybe it was just me going in half glass, half empty.
North, like Nova Scotia, Greenland?
No, so I haven't. I was given an opportunity last year. They're big cruises, and I sell a lot. I sell a lot of Greenland, Iceland, up like Svalbard, so up in Norway where the polar bears are. That in Antarctica and Royal Caribbean are my biggest sellers. They're very popular. They're bucket list trips, these ones.
They're longer too.
They're longer. That's the thing. I was offered a 10-night last year from...
They're like 18 days.
Yeah, and they get long. If you want to see everything, it killed me to say no, but I couldn't go away for that long with kids. Yeah, and honestly, it's going to sound terrible. I tell my colleagues all the time, they're not on my bucket list right now. To honestly be floating around in the middle of nowhere, not being able to see anything in the dark, does not thrill me. As I keep saying, I don't want to, like my colleague who loves Antarctica, and I sell so much of it, he's like, why don't you want to go? I said, it's just not somewhere I want to go. Like, I don't want to sit floating around looking at icebergs and not being able to see anyone else around. He's like, yeah, but there's ships around the corner. I'm like, oh, I don't know, just not, maybe when I get older, but right now, I'm not interested. I'd love to go see polar bears. I'll do the Arctic before I go to Antarctica. But we have like a 92-year-old guy wanted to see Antarctica, and we had the crew get him onto the Zodiac and got him to touch the last continent for him. So you've got to have that adventurous spirit to do those parts of the world, but very popular. I had a client send me a video, a polar bear jumped off the ice and swam out to her, like she could see it from her balcony. So cool things like that I'd like to see, but they're very, very popular. I think people have done the Caribbean, they've done the Bahamas, they've done Europe, now they want something different. Yeah, very popular.
I'd like to do a river cruise in Europe.
Yeah, great way to see Europe, and you're not going to get seasick. You can see, that's probably the best way you get seasick.
I get car sick.
Oh, well, you're not going to get seasick on a river cruise. It's pretty flat. It's literally flat. And again, you can see like so many European countries in one. That's a great way to see the world. But yeah. So that's me. Are there any other questions?
Do you recommend any cruise for kids?
Cruise for kids? Carnival's cheap and cheerful.
They do have kids.
They got lots of kids activities.
For teens and young.
Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah, Disney would be my number one.
That's the price tag.
Yeah, but that's like, there goes your European, European trip. Yeah,
There's no game
There's no gambling on it.
yeah. Disney is wholly and solely for kids, but it's very pricey. But they get to do all the cool things like have breakfast with the characters and all that fun stuff. I would definitely. I love Royal Caribbean for families. You can't beat it. The price is decent.
It's nice for the parents and
It's
nice
got
for the
everything.
kids.
Whereas Disney's for the kids and the kids at heart. But Royal Caribbean has something for everyone. Carnival, if you're really in a pinch and you really want something cheap,
No.
but you get what you pay for. You might not ever cruise again, but yeah, no, Royal Caribbean 100% for families.
I've been on 2 carnivals and I said I would never go on them again.
Yeah. I'm actually, so,
One with our entire family, the whole extended family. So
oh, that would, yeah, we'll have to
there was
wear the
like
matching
30 of
t-shirts.
us.
Yeah.
And then one was spring break when our child was in 3rd grade. And I said I would never.
Oh,
ever-
spring break on
And
Carnival.
he was third
You had
grade.
spring break Walmart
And
at
he
sea.
was 3rd grade, which was even worse. But
Oh, well.
I just
You live and
there's
you learn.
things that you can pay a little bit more and everybody's happy.
Yeah. And Royal
New
Caribbean
Orleans
is definitely.
and not Galveston, so that would help.
Yeah, oh, and it all depends on where the ship's leaving from. So Galveston are the booze cruises. Baltimore are the booze cruises because they sail the older ships that are really affordable and
This was
people.
an older ship in New Orleans.
Yes, anything old and out of the older.
Living in the 80s.
Yeah, that's when they just go to drink and you get, yeah.
Princess is also good for just adults.
Yeah, it was just, there was 2
Princess, oh yeah, Princess
with young
for the oldies.
kids, and it made me very nervous for swimming. But he had a great time in the kids club. He didn't want to leave.
Mm.
You would drop him off at 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. he would say, "Can I stay longer?" You know, and at the time he was 7, 8
Yep.
years old.
And
and
We'll walk it back
cried
to you.
when he left.
That's good though. Like, I mean,
So that was nice.
that's nice, but it's the whole. It's the. Yeah.
I would have rather paid a little bit more and had it be a little bit more nicer experience.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be Disney, but like you said, Royal Caribbean,
Yeah.
we've done Royal Caribbean, and it was.
I feel like
phenomenal.
Disney's a bucket list trip too. It's like, oh, the Disney cruise,
Royal Caribbean
your
is
ticket.
it's a good price
Yep.
for what you get. We felt like.
Yeah, and you don't need to get the drink package and thing. Like I tell people, unless you're really, and if you're going with kids, are you really going to start drinking at like 8 a.m.? Maybe yes, maybe no, but yeah, but you
I'm sorry,
you can.
Instagram Live.
You don't have to buy the packages, and I mean sometimes you can work your way around things. But no, Royal Caribbean, 100% for families and kids. Second to Disney, but Disney's going to be for the kids and the kids at heart. As no gambling. I mean, even if you don't gamble, there's other things that they've got other restrictions too about alcohol and where you can drink alcohol, which is
Understandable.
yeah, and understandable and not a bad thing, not a bad thing at all. For the over 50s, definitely Princess, and then anyone over 18, I would recommend Virgin Voyages. Like they are a great price point. It was a fun experience, and yeah, for food and fitness was just second to none.
I have one question. So we have what I call a transition adult.
Yep.
He's 19.
Yes.
So in that case, because you have children
Yes.
that have been in that age.
Yep.
Is there, because he's first of college, about to go into his second year, where would you take him?
Okay, so that's a very good
You don't
question.
want him to be with only people who are over
And he's not going to go to a teen club or. So it depends on what he likes. So I had a celebrity cruise ship. Actually, celebrities are great. Celebrity's a good one too. I had a cruise ship tour 6 months ago, and I took both my daughters with me, who at the time were 20 and 22. So I said, I want to see what you guys think about this, so that then I can, for my target market, if someone's got right. So we did the tour. I mean, the spa was awesome. It was an awesome ship, and I asked my 20 at the time she was 20. I said, so what do you think Ryder would do? So Ryder's my 16-year-old. What do you think he would do on this ship? And she looked at me and she goes, Mum, what am I going to do? She said, apart from the spa that costs more money, there's nothing for me. So I was like, oh. Well, mission accomplished. Now I know that there's not enough for you. She's a big kid at heart,
I
though.
felt that way about cruises and that age group, like that 18 to 25
Yep.
or so. It felt
So,
like-
but it depends on what your son likes. Is he a big kid at heart? Is he going to go and is he going to do the bumper cars and stuff like that? Because cruise ships have so much, like Norwegian have a racetrack on their roof. If he's into that, then I don't know. It's
I'm
hard.
just curious if that's a weird age range.
It is. It's tricky because if he's more refined and likes his food and his fitness, and 100% Virgin Voyages because you just got to be 18 plus. They've got small pools. They don't have. I mean, if he doesn't mind walking past a drag queen doing bingo, then that's that would be a great. But I again would probably revert back to Royal. I probably should be saying
Probably say,
Norwegian.
you guys just go alone and you take them on something else.
Well, even Norwegian, but I'm not a huge Norwegian cruise line fan, so I probably should get that out of my head because it probably would tick some boxes for you. Again, I rode they have the, what's it called? Bumper, it's not, it's go-karts. That's the word. They've got the go-karts. I rode the go-karts and stuff, and it's fun, but that stuff costs you extra. He would probably like an icon, like a big thing with, is he into entertainment? Would he like to go to the shows and things? What does he like?
Music.
Right. Oh, 100% then Royal Caribbean. Yeah, celebrity might not, he's just too young for celebrity. I would do a Royal.
He's used to hanging out with us.
Yeah, so music, yeah, they got great, but then Norwegian had a great Beatles, really good Beatles tribute band. I don't know. I'd say a Norwegian or a Royal.
We just went to the Beatles.
You did?
One here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Get off track.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, but Norwegian might be a good choice. And Norwegian have the new Aqua, which might be. I just wasn't impressed with their food, and yeah, they took me on an itinerary I wasn't overly impressed with.
Yours based on
Your age, 100% Royal Caribbean, but then maybe knowing your family, Disney.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Keep on.
Yeah, but I think for your son,
Second mortgage, Disney.
yeah, or trip to Europe, Royal.
Yeah.
So back to your question, I would definitely say for your son would be a Royal or a Norwegian. One of the newer Norwegian ships, like the Aqua. Yeah.
Or just a European river cruise with us.
Or a European river cruise. Yeah, you can get up with the Umpapa bands in Germany and then, you know,
I've had several
Oktoberfest.
friends do- I've had several friends do that recently. Like one's on one right now, and they rave about them.
They're older, but so the river cruises are
But one was young. One's like in her early 20s, but newly married. And
Right.
The other one's an older woman, but like both have raved about.
The-
That's the difference of being married versus being a single.
right, 100%, and it's just a whole different experience. It generally is an older crowd, but there is a tour operator who does a family river cruise, so they just do it for families. So you're going to get other families on there. It's not something I would be rushing my children off to do. I don't think, not now. I mean, it is a great way to see Europe, but they don't want to be stuck on a river doing it. I would eventually. You got to get there. That's the thing. They can give me a free cabin, but I've got to get all the way to Europe and back.
I've heard that some ships there from Europe, they come here and do the cruise.
Yep.
And then when it's
Yep.
the season,
They go elsewhere.
A special
Yep.
fee that you can pay.
The transatlantic, yeah. You're so they're cheap because you're on water, pretty much the whole time. So they're called transatlantics, and relocation cruises. There's some good ones, like if you want to leave Seattle and end up in Sydney, that's a good one because you end up. That's a lot. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's over a month. Actually, 42 days. I had a client the other day told me he's on a 42-day cruise from Seattle to Sydney, and then he's flying back from Auckland. But he's going to go all the way around Australia. They're going to go to Bora Bora, Fiji, I don't know about Fiji, a lot of the South Pacific. See, the South Pacific to Australia is like the Caribbean is to you guys. We go, been
Where
there.
else are you from?
Sydney.
From Sydney.
Yep.
Love the city. Great
Yep.
city.
It's a wonderful city. I miss it a lot. But yeah, so there's something for everyone. Something for every budget, something for everybody. Everybody. Yeah. Well, that's it from me. Has anyone got... Oh, something turned off. Oh, no, it didn't. Does anyone have any other questions? Who?
Do those Antarctic cruises usually start in Ushuaia?
So, yeah, so there's the Ushuaia departure that goes across the Drake Passage. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but you either get the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake. The Drake Shake, I have not done it, but I've seen video footage, and I've had people who have, I have friends who've done it. If you get the Drake Lake, you're golden. It's literally cruising across a lake. The Drake Shake is when you can get some pretty decent waves that throw you around for a couple of days. But there are, so I know National Geographic and Lindbergh cruises, they do a fly and sail. So you fly out of Chile. You fly out of Chile, and then you meet the ship in the Shetland Islands. Yeah. So there's different options for that. You don't always have to cruise the Drake, but the packages offered by some of the expedition cruise lines I work with is you just get your airfare to Buenos Aires, and they charter you to Ushuaia, and then they take you to Antarctica. Yeah.
How much do those usually run?
It depends. So I'm very fortunate that my colleague and I have a really good relationship with some of these expedition cruise lines and their people, and they give us some good rates, and it can vary. So to answer your question, a lead-in 7-night in an ocean view cabin, I can probably get something around 9,000. It'd probably be about 11,000 straight directly with the cruise line, and then obviously increases a little bit depending on what cabin category you want. But yeah, so my colleague and I have some good deals with some of the people on the cruise lines that we get, so we're very fortunate. Yeah, but yeah, you can spend. You want a suite to go to Antarctica? People, like, these are bucket list trips. People will drop $20,000 a person. But again, it's a bucket list opportunity. You're in a suite. You've got, that's everything included. Everything. Everything. You can kayak in Antarctica. You can camp. Yeah. So yeah, there's deals to be had if you talk to the right people. Any other questions? No? Well, that's about it from me. Marillo, you got any questions for me?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. That was fun. That was fun.